Welcome, everybody. I hope that you've all been doing well during this extraordinary time. We've all been impacted, and my sincere hope is that you, unlike James Bond, that you've been stirred and not shaken. Our staff has daily gone to extraordinary lengths to put out fires and keep the district functioning and moving forward during this pandemic. And I want to start this meeting by thanking everyone for the great job that they're doing. The good news is that based on the data we have, the shelter in place is working and case growth is slower in our area than elsewhere. We should all be proud of the great job we're doing with this, as it involves sacrifices across the board. As you know, like every other public agency, we have a coping strategy for public meetings during this time that consists of a video conference procedure for our commission meeting. CSDA put out updates and a webinar on Brown Act essentials and permissible changes during the shelter at home notice. So the very nature of video conference means that we need to be disciplined in regards to following proper parliamentary procedures during the meeting. So to make sure that every commissioner is heard on the various agenda items, I'm going to poll each commissioner in random order for each matter. And I ask that you keep your comments until it is your turn so that all of our remarks can be clearly understood and recorded. I'll assure that everyone will have the opportunity to speak. However, should you wish to make a comment immediately or while someone else is speaking, please refrain and wait for your turn. And please ask the chair for recognition to speak on matters. That way we'll avoid speaking over each other, which is quite problematic given the nature of video conferencing. Here's how it's going to work. And we can practice the meeting format now. Do commissioners have any comments, questions, or clarifications on this procedure? And I'll call on each in turn. Commissioner Brennan. Commissioner Brennan, you're muted. But if you don't have any questions, can you just say no?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay. Are we going to have commissioner comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this is just to clarify if there are any comments, questions, or clarifications on tonight's procedure. So Commissioner Brennan?
I'm not sure what the procedure is, but I think we'll figure it out as we go.
Okay. Commissioner Chang-Karali?
I'm clear, and thanks for outlining that, Nancy.
Okay. Commissioner Lorenas?
Yes.
All clear. Okay. Commissioner Mateusz?
Yes, all fine.
Okay, great. All right, so Melanie, can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Brennan,
Here?
Commissioner Chang-Karali,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenas,
Here.
Commissioner Ryring,
President?
Commissioner Mateusz.
Here.
Great. Okay, now any public comments or questions? I don't see any here on the chat. Am I missing anything?
So
Yes.
just a reminder to the users, there are 3 ways that you can make public comment. One is clicking participant at the bottom of your screen and then raise hand. The other is to indicate in the chat that you'd like to talk on a specific topic. The final way is to dial *9 from your phone if you're joining us as a phone user.
Great. Thank you, Tricia.
Oh, this is Lizzie. I'm sorry.
Oh, Lizzie. Thanks, Lizzie.
I do see a call here. ending in 9711. So caller ending in 9711, you're unmuted for comment.
My name is Todd Korth, and I am the person that escalated the dock sales issue to the general manager and then had a discussion with Chris, the harbor master. And I was told that this topic was on the agenda. I'd just like to know when that topic will be discussed, and I hope that we can come to some form of resolution on this topic.
Yes, Jim, can you answer that question?
That matter will be part of my COVID-19 response and posture brief item 1 or 2 of the discussion.
Yeah,
I have to look over.
it's item 10, I think. No, 9, sorry. Okay, any other public comments or questions?
We have one here in a raised hand from Barry Day. You are unmuted for comments.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can hear you?
Okay, yeah, I'm following in line there with Todd re the dock sales. You know, solutions there, obviously, which we've all got, because I know that first week with the public bombing the beaches, it was mayhem, and I think everyone's sort of getting in line now, including myself, with this virus. And I'm seeing it about town when I walk in Ace, there's 6-foot spacings, etc. And I've been working a lot with Chris, the harbour man there, and I think we're starting to come up with more solutions and problems. So I'd like to be part of the solution there in the meeting a bit later on if I can.
Great, thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the public?
I don't see any at this time.
Thanks, Lizzie. So we'll move on to commissioner comments. Any commissioners that would like to make public statements limited to 5 minutes, please raise your hand. Commissioner Brennan.
First of all, before I start my comment, I want to ask to have items 5 through 8 pulled off consent. Can you confirm that?
5 through 8, okay.
Okay, great. All right, I'm going to start my public comment. So I was recently in the state of Hawaii and received this special commendation certificate from the Hawaii State Legislature, and I'm going to read it. It says, the House of Representatives, State of Hawaii, hereby presents this certificate to Sabrina Brennan, whereas it is a pleasure and privilege for the Hawaii House of Representatives to recognize exceptional women who have made significant achievements on behalf of female athletes by pioneering participation and pursuing gender equality in professional surfing. And whereas Sabrina Brennan has actively engaged the public through advocacy, education, events, and media for the advancement of women's surfing and equal pay in professional sports. And whereas her legislative work has been vital in helping female surfers achieve the same pay and to have the same opportunities as male surfers. And whereas Sabrina Brennan has tremendous influence on the futures of young female and male surfers alike, who aspire to work hard for the same level of ability and accomplishments as professional surfers, and hope for equality and equity in professional sports they participate in. And whereas Sabrina Brennan participates in the Committee for Equity in Women's Surfing that supports equality, inclusion, equal access, pay parity, and increasing the number of events and awards and opportunities for women to showcase their athletic excellence. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 13th Legislature of the State of Hawaii, hereby congratulate and honor Sabrina Brennan in her outstanding national and world achievements in Hawaii's women's surfing and advocacy, and extends to her and her family its warmest aloha and best wishes for continued success in all future endeavors. So I just wanted to share that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to travel to Hawaii and receive this in person from the legislature. Thank you.
Commissioner Chang Corrali?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank, what you did, Nancy, the staff for all the work they are doing. I was at the harbor at Pillar Point, literally the night that the shelter in place was going to be effective. And I just had a few minutes to say bye to the harbor patrol personnel who were working very hard. And I just wanted to let everyone know, Jim, if you could please let them know how much I appreciate the work that they're doing, number one. Number two, Jim, thank you for taking a leadership role in trying to make sure that our county residents are safe by, taking the precaution and working in concert with the state and the county to deal with the parking lot closures, public space closures, just to make sure that we're all doing the social distancing thing. You're doing a great job. I think that the public appreciates that. And I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing, as well as the Harbor Patrol staff, who I know were, working with the public and having to face them during a very busy time on the coast, from what I understand, during the weekends. Also, I just want to thank, I know it's this whole Zoom call has been, it's a new era right now. And I know that Julie, Lizzie, John, all of y'all, Melanie, y'all have been working so hard to get things, to work in a way as seamlessly as possible. So thank you for all that you're doing, and just for sticking through all of this with us. That's it. Y'all are wonderful. And I'm hearing this from members of the public too, who know that, the closure of some of our public spaces, like even our parking lots, I mean, it's not ideal, but they understand, and they don't want this to spread. So thanks for your leadership there, Jim, and to everyone who are working very hard to help us get through this.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? I don't think that there are, so we're going to move on to the consent calendar. And I believe the Commissioner Brennan has pulled, is it 4 through 7 or 8?
5 through 8.
5 through 8. So we'll be approving 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the consent calendar.
It's great. I'll make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 4.
Second.
Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
And I would like to move item number 10, employee leave considerations, up next for discussion, and then the 4 items that have been pulled from the consent calendar will go after that. And then finally at the end, number 9, the COVID-19 response and posture, which will give Mr. Pruitt enough time to expand on that subject.
Can I just chime in, because we've got people that are waiting that want to hear about that, and it seems like that's kind of the most critical public safety information at this point. So I think it makes sense to do that earlier in the meeting. It's just a suggestion.
To do what?
Thanks, Commissioner Brennan. I understand, and I was trying to weigh that with our need to vote on these other items and get them approved so that the Harbor District can continue to function. So I think I'm going to stick with my order, and hopefully we can move through things quickly enough that the public will all still be with us here for this discussion.
I'd like to just make a comment, please, just to be on
Yes,
the record.
Commissioner Lorenz, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I agree with Commissioner Brennan, and I just want to be on the record that I think it's inappropriate to make the public wait just because we want to get out of the meeting earlier, because we can always extend the meeting if we haven't covered everything. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to be moving to the first discussion item, which is number 10, employee leave considerations due to COVID-19. Mr. Pruitt. Oh, no, it's Julie.
Yeah, good evening, commissioners. The staff report includes a draft copy of a temporary leave policy to be used during the COVID state of emergency. It was prepared in an effort to help staff to the fullest extent possible during this very unprecedented time. With the information that we have to date, we are hopeful that we will be able to continue employment for district employees for the duration of this pandemic. Since the district is a governmental agency and an essential business, we continue to operate. Administrative staff is for the most part working from home. The majority of operations staff are considered emergency responders and continue to be on site. This policy would allow supervisors to send an employee home if they show COVID-19 symptoms at work, and to place that employee on paid administrative leave if the employee has exhausted their leave balances. This policy also allows employees to access their extended illness bank for COVID-19 related issues. In addition, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act was signed into law on March 18th of 2020, and this policy includes the requirements of that law. Because emergency responders are considered vital to the continuation of district services, they are exempted. However, if scheduling permits, this policy would allow for those that qualify to take advantage of the various programs. This program would run from April 1st to December 31st with the leniency on the EIB retroactively starting with approval from the Harbor Commissioners on March 17th, which was the day that the state of emergency and the shelter in place was issued. It also provides, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act also provides 80 hours emergency paid sick leave if an employee is ordered by state, federal, or local quarantine or isolation or self-quarantine by a healthcare provider, or if they are experiencing symptoms of the COVID virus. The 80 hours may also be used to care for an individual who is subject to isolation or quarantine, or to care for a child whose school or place of care has been closed. The Act also increases the Family Medical Care Act to include leave to care for children without risk of losing one's job. The attached draft policy has been reviewed by both the unions and the union representatives. So with that, if you have any questions.
I do. I have some questions.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, Commissioner Brennan.
Julie, if somebody has a member of their family, like a partner or a child who has, say, for example, like an autoimmune disease, like maybe asthma or something like that, and would put them at, kind of extreme risk from the coronavirus. Is that employee able to work from home so that they don't put that relative that lives in their house at risk of contagion? I think we've got, from what I understand, 4 Harbor Patrol people in the portable building at one time. And as we know, that is a very small space. So it would seem that there's a pretty significant risk level there in that working environment. So I'm just wondering, how is an employee to protect their family if there's an at-risk member of the family at home?
Yes, we did include an option that employee would be able to use their EIB bank in order to stay at home. We will do everything in our power to keep the employee busy with remote work, but if that fails, then we would allow them to use their sick leave banks or their PTO banks. And in the event that they've exhausted all of those banks, then with the general manager may allow them to go on an unpaid leave of absence. And that's all in section, like the last paragraph of the policy.
What does the EIB bank look like? I mean, how many, like if somebody had a child with an asthma condition, how much time would they be able to not come in is the question I have.
It's dependent on how long an employee's worked for the district and how many leaves they've taken so far.
Well, like what's like the, sort of the least amount versus the most, or just to give us kind of a range of understanding?
We had one employee who started on March 18th. And so they would have the least amount. They would have about 4 hours in their bank. They wouldn't be eligible for some of these programs because they haven't worked for the district for an entire month yet. We do have employees, I think they probably have 900 hours, is if I remember correctly, but in that ballpark.
Okay.
The ones that have been here with the district for a while.
And if somebody wasn't able to work and burn through their EIB bank, could we furlough them so that they'd be eligible for unemployment benefits? Or how could we help them be able to continue to care for their family and not put them at risk?
Yeah, that might be an option. We'll definitely try to work with each individual that has a concern. As long as not all of the emergency responders take advantage of this program for various reasons, then we won't be put in the position where we need to kind of go to the other level, is that we need a minimal amount of staffing to keep the harbors safe and sanitary.
And do we have an emergency plan for what that, I guess this is more of a question for Jim. Do we have a plan in place for, in the event that we had workers that got sick and weren't able to come in, what is that minimum staffing plan? Is that something that we're going to be hearing about later this evening? So, and can we get like a written copy of what, sort of what that emergency plan looks like?
Evening, Commissioner Brennan. We do have a minimum staffing that we'd like to maintain at the Harbor District, and that's at least 2 people at all times, just for officer safety and backup. And that's the minimum we'd like to go down to. At least one of those have to be a harbor master, but it could be a combination of harbor master and a harbor worker. And then if something or to emergency were to occur beyond our control, just like today, we'd be calling 911 or our partner agencies in the fire department or police department to come in and assist.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry, did you say there was an emergency today?
No, if there was an emergency, just like we would today, if there was an emergency that we could not handle on our own, we'd be calling in our partner agencies San Mateo County Sheriff's Office or Cal Fire or local fire departments, and to assist us in responding if we're down to minimal staffing levels. We're also looking at contracting out some of the more menial sanitary tasking, mainly cleaning of the tenant restrooms, so that our staff can be better utilized elsewhere than keeping the tenant restrooms clean. So we're working towards that solution also.
And are we going to be hearing about that later so we get more detail?
The emergency plan, we weren't going to go into too much detail in our current status, no. But we can provide a written plan to you in the following days.
Okay, I think that's really important that we have a well-drafted emergency plan so that the commissioners, the management staff, as well as the employees are all on the same page with what the plan looks like. And we have it mapped out so that if we know X, Y, and Z happens, then we're going to do this. And it's not a surprise, or we're not figuring it out kind of as we go. I know you're already working on that, but it'd be great to see something in writing.
Okay, great.
We'll provide it to you once complete.
Any other commissioners have a comment or a question? Commissioner Matoush? I think you're muted. Commissioner Matoush?
I was trying to find the button to unmute. No, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this policy.
I'll second.
that.
I have a question.
Commissioner Lorenz?
The policy reads like a legal document, and I found it difficult to sort out the flow of so if I was an employee, I would find it difficult to sort out what flow of leave I would take. So is there, I guess what I'm asking is, how are you guys rolling this out to the employees? Because it took me about an hour to figure out how this thing worked.
Yes, I agree. There is a lot of legal language in this document, and that's most of that language is coming from the Families First Response Act. We have had one employee ask for leave, and so all employees are directed to contact me, and I will walk them through the steps that they need to take, and also provide some forms that they need to fill out just as if they were going on FMLA. If they choose to take EIB and not take their 80 days emergency sick leave, which is required by the law, then there will be less requirements for them to do that. The 80 hours emergency sick leave, however, if they're going to put in the work necessary for the district to be able to get any sort of reimbursement for those programs, then there's kind of strict guidelines on how to go about doing that. So we're working with them, giving the options and trying to describe them the best that we can.
And I've got a follow-up question, but Ed, I don't know if you're done yet.
Not yet. I just wanted to comment. Thank you for that, because so it sounds like what you're saying is that any employee of the district will have at least a baseline understanding of what their options are. Because my concern was that if our employees talk amongst each other and have limited understanding of how this works for them, they will be further confused. And so
in addition, Ed, I think it's important to say that under the general manager's direction, the general manager has organized meetings with the two union representatives, one from each facility, Pillar Point and Oyster Point, with myself, Julie, and Jim, general manager himself. we've already had 2 of those weekly meetings, but we're going to be continuing those weekly meetings throughout this challenging situation, and we'll be able to answer any questions staff might have brought to the union representatives, as well as any questions that that we may have of them.
Okay, thank you, John. That really helps.
And then this is Jim Pruitt again. We had one specific meeting with the union reps just to go over this policy in detail and explain paragraph by paragraph what the policy was, and they had a clear understanding to it.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right. Is that it?
I have a
Ed,
question.
you're good?
I have a question.
Ed, I'm just checking to see if Ed is finished.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioner Brennan?
So it sounds like the union rep understands the policy, and I am just skimming it right now, and it is really, really, really dense and really complicated. So I agree with Ed that this is going to be hard for employees to understand. Could we do like a Q&A type of thing to go along with it to try to answer, sort of standard questions that are clearly going to come up for staff?
That's a very good idea.
Okay, so maybe that's something we could add in addition to this when it's rolled out, or?
Yes.
Okay, and is that something, Jim, that you think the board needs to approve, or is that something internal that you guys could do with employment council?
That'll all be internal because it's once the policy is approved, that'll be procedure, and we already got the policy as written has already gone through Labor Council, been approved. So if we need to go back to them, we will. But several questions, I shouldn't say several, but as questions come up, we could definitely develop Q&As and identify our own questions that we think may come up and develop our own Q&As and bounce it off legal counsel.
Okay, can you send that to the commission when you guys figure out what your Q&A is, just so that we can read it, so we understand the same information?
We can.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Crawley?
No, I just have one quick question. So once the 2 bargaining units kind of review this, is this going to be an addendum to the MOUs that are currently in place, or is this just something that's going to be a separate agreement, or how does that get incorporated, if at all?
OE3 is considering this as a side letter, and they'll just approve it. The Teamsters was a lot less formal and just said,
okay,
it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second on the table, so I guess we need 2 roll calls if you're going to call the question, right? Melanie?
Commissioner Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Okay, great. And now roll call.
Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Lorenz, I think you're muted.
Ed, you're muted.
Oh.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye, and I hope we will not unnecessarily call questions, because it just makes these meetings more complicated.
Roll call. We're in the middle of a roll call.
Oh, let's see. That's
Commissioner Crawley.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And now we'll move on to item number 4 that's been pulled from the consent calendar. John.
Item number 5.
I'm sorry,
right?
item number 5.
Yeah, this is the revision of the commercial activity permit for Phantom Marine. And this was a cap that came before the board at the February meeting. And at the February meeting, we incorporated $200 to be included into that cap to charge Tideline, which they've been paying since October 2017. We received a notification that Tideline did not want to continue to provide services on the Phantom Marine dock. And so this consent item is just taking out Tideline services, that $200 related to those services, and the ability for them to allow Tideline to use their dock or that dock.
What is Tideline?
It was a ferry service it was providing limited ferry service to, I'm not sure which company. Do you know, John?
I think, was that the Alexis one?
Yes, it was. A private biotech company that had changed locations from South San Francisco to the East Bay. So they wanted to ensure that their employees had a limited opportunity. Those that had moved to South San Francisco had an opportunity to easily commute to the new location in the East Bay. They decided apparently that there was not enough people taking advantage of it, so the company terminated their agreement with Tideline. Therefore, Tideline no longer wants to provide a service out of Oyster Point Marina.
Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the attached commercial activity permit for Fathom Marine, authorizing the use of Dock 7 at Oyster Point to consist of vessel maintenance services.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'm going to call on Commissioner Lorenz.
No.
Okay, Commissioner Matoush,
I'm fine.
Commissioner Chankarali,
I'm fine, thank you.
Commissioner Brennan.
Yeah, I just have one last question. This is a question for John. Do we currently have any other private ferry service or just the public ferry service?
We don't, the San Mateo County Harbor District doesn't operate WETA.
Yeah, I know that. I know, but it's still there. Is there any other?
Yeah, I know, Sabrina. I was just trying to, make it clear to everybody that's listening. So,
Thank you.
As you know, Sabrina, WETA is the public ferry service, but we also have a commercial activity permit for Prop SF that does provide private ferry service for Genentech, another private biotech company that has a commercial activity permit to pick up and drop off their employees at one end of the district's guest dock. So that commercial activity permit does go through the district, and the board had approved that commercial activity permit.
John, what's the status with COVID-19? Is there ferry service happening right now? I'm sure there's some essential workplaces in that area. What's going on over there?
Yeah, it's very, very seldom are there any ferry service boats moving at all. Though the WETA ferry service has been dramatically declined as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, I think we have a motion and a second. So Melanie, can you do the roll call, please? Melanie, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Chankarali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Raring.
Aye. All right, so we're going to be moving on to item number 6, purchase of 3 new rescue watercraft for emergency response. John.
This is a rollover item from the March regular meeting that we were unable to have due to the national emergency. However, this challenge needed to be addressed. So this is a request for the district to approve the purchase of new rescue watercrafts. Rescue watercrafts are in effect jet skis or personal watercrafts, as they're often also called. The district rescue watercraft program was implemented in 2000 and has been an integral part of the Pillar Point Harbor Patrol life-saving capabilities, as they allow rescue teams to reach the beach and work inside the reefs where full-size patrol boats cannot access. The highly trained district rescue watercraft rescue teams have been and continue to be a leader in the emergency use of rescue watercrafts, as is evidenced by the frequent special requests we receive for support from allied agencies to assist in life-saving missions. Most recently, on January 2nd, 2020, the District Harbor Patrol responded to an emergency call at Cowell Ranch State Beach, saving a near-drowning victim. Due to the victim being hypothermic, nearly unconscious, staff had to enter treacherous surf. Fortunately, due to their heroic actions, the victim was rescued, but the 2 responding RWCs, rescue watercrafts, sustained irreparable damage, therefore compromising our ability in future responses. This heroic rescue event left the district with, in fact, only 2 old rescue watercrafts that are over 10 years old. Like with all machinery, reliability suffers as parts age, making them unsafe despite the professional maintenance efforts. In addition, parts are no longer available for those older machines, which further complicates the maintenance efforts. These old machines we plan to sell at auction using our public auction vendor to further offset the net costs of the new rescue watercrafts that are being considered tonight. In an effort to replace the 2 lost rescue watercrafts and obtain a 3rd new rescue watercraft for backup, making it a total of 3 new rescue watercrafts, staff solicited quotes and believe the quote from Grand Prix Motorsports for $42,686.79 best suits the district's needs. The district's insurance has already reimbursed the district $13,461.60 for the 2 irreparably damaged RWCs from the aforementioned incident. Staff have done extensive research into RWC replacement options and found that Yamaha is the industry leader and has been the selection of allied agencies, and is the RWC model also used in the professional K-38 training the staff undergo. These 3 RWCs were available for immediate delivery, and their purchase will make the District Harbor Patrol once again available to respond to life-saving emergencies where PWCs are the only asset that can respond in the shallow waters. So staff recommends the board authorize the general manager to execute the order agreement for the purchase of these 3 rescue watercrafts with the vendor Grand Prix Motorsports for the sum of $42,686.79 with a 10% contingency, subject to the written approval of the general manager.
Through the chair.
Thank you, John. I can't imagine why we wouldn't approve this, but I'm going to cycle through the commissioners for comments. Commissioner Chang Corrali.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the general manager to execute the attached buyer's order agreement for the purchase of 3 new rescue watercraft with vendor Grand Prix Motorsports for the sum of $42,686.79 with a 10% contingency, subject to the written approval of the general manager.
And I'll second. I have a question, John. Could you tell us if it was the old skis or the new skis that we lost?
It was the It was the last ones that we purchased, which
Oh.
were less than two. Regretfully, they were less than 2 years old. They were
Damn.
the only ones. They were the only ones that staff felt comfortable actually responding to emergencies on. The old machines, staff to this date do not feel safe training or responding on those vessels. Therefore, we plan to sell them at auction, as I previously discussed.
Thank you. I appreciate the info.
Do we have any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Lorenz?
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matoush?
And to make sure I'm on mute. No, I'm fine.
All right. Melanie, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
All right, moving on to item number 7, increase to construction costs for the Pillar Point Harbor Master Office alterations project. John?
Yes, this is a motion. Staff recommends that the board approve a motion to authorize a construction cost increase of an additional $60,000 for the Pillar Point Harbor Master Office alterations project from the previously approved $413,600 to an amount not to exceed $473,600 for unanticipated additional expenses associated with the contract, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to this new contingency amount, approve an increase in capital project appropriations of that $60,000. Little history, the Pillar Point Harbor Master Office is located at the foot of Johnson Pier and is a rectangular 1,400 square foot building. The building is owned by the district and has housed the harbor front desk, servicing tenants, the local community, and tourists, providing public information, directions, and answering questions. This office also acts as the hub for search and rescue efforts and harbor patrol workstations. The current floor plan and front entry configuration is not compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, is not the best use of the square footage, is not best suited for security concern, and lacks open connectivity between the workstations. This project will and is going to correct all of those issues. On December 18th, 2019, the board approved a contract after an invitation for bid with CWS Construction Group, Inc. to make the alterations to the interior of the exterior of the Pillar Point Harbor Master's Office, making all accessible in accordance with ADA standards. Construction began in February and is currently underway, though mostly halted now due to the COVID-19 national emergency. The project has run into several unanticipated challenges, which has already resulted in change orders requiring additional monies. At present, the change orders have added up to $37,524, exhausting the 10% contingency previously approved by the board. The contractor has also identified additional alterations that will be required for ADA compliance. Issues with carpet that was previously covered with furniture that we were unaware needed to be replaced, electronic fuel monitoring system that needs to be moved, alterations to door sills for ADA compliance, ceiling lighting modifications, and portions of a wall that needs to be moved in order to widen the hallway for ADA compliance. And regretfully, throughout the project as it continues, there may be more unforeseen. Therefore, staff are requesting the board consider an increase in project costs not to exceed $60,000 so the project can proceed in accordance with COVID-19 health and safety restrictions that they allow. Staff recommends that the board approve the aforementioned motion.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Lorenz, any comments or questions?
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Chang Corrali?
Yes, I'd actually like to make a motion to approve the construction cost increase of an additional $60,000 for the Pillar Point Harbor Master Office alterations project from the previously approved amount of $413,600 to an amount not to exceed $473,600 for unanticipated additional expenses associated with the contract, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount, and approve the increase in capital project appropriations of $60,000.
I'll second. I got a question for John.
Commissioner Brennan?
Thank you. So John, I know right now our harbor patrol are really kind of cramped in the temporary building. And it kind of concerns me that they're on top of each other. Are we like on pause with this project because we can't get construction workers out, or like what's the status of the project at, given all the constraints related to the pandemic?
We're not completely paused, but Lizzie assisted me in contacting and explaining the importance of this project moving forward as quickly as is possible. And the feedback we got back from the county was that it is simply because we do have a temporary building at present. It is not deemed essential that it continue full speed ahead, but we have been able to get aspects of it continuing the project to continue moving in a safe manner. As far as staff goes in the temporary building, I hope that staff would tell you the same thing they've told me, as I have actually walked out there many times and discussed with staff. We don't encourage staff at all to stay in the office. Staff have plenty of work to do and are maintaining 6 to 10 feet away from everyone, including each other. Of course, it is true that from time to time they will be in the office at the same time, but we never encourage. And our harbor master, Chris Tibby at Pillar Point Harbor, I think has been doing a great job, and we are continuing to, as Julie described earlier, continuing to reduce staff as much as is possible from all being there at Pillar Point at the same time. So we are spreading out, and staff are working with us during this extremely challenging time as we have to change schedules a little bit, sometimes to their benefit. Sometimes they are making some sacrifices, but we're spreading out staff to where we don't have 14 staff all there at the same time. In addition, we are enabling staff to so that they can work from home. We're working on, our training officer, Carrie Smith, is continuing to work on training alternatives that staff can do online from home. So we're continuing to look at a whole lot of different alternatives to having multiple staff in the office, which I don't believe is occurring very often at all.
That's great. Thank you for that. I appreciate the info.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan.
If we don't have any other comments, Melanie, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
And now the item number 8 on the consent calendar that was pulled by Commissioner Brennan, the 2020/21 budget calendar. Julie.
Yeah, so this item was necessary because of the COVID-19 state of emergency. There's a lot of fluctuations now in our projections and our budget. There's a lot of questions, a lot more questions than there are answers. So it's taking a little bit of time to try to come up with some methodologies to do forecasting for next year's budget. The calendar that is on page 2 of the staff report, basically on March 18th, 2020, we canceled the first look at the 2021 budget. And that was in the board package at that time. Our new plan is to bring a revised first look to the finance committee that will probably be scheduled sometime next week. And then that first look presented to the board at the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is April 15th. Then we would adopt that on May 20th. There has to be 30 days between the date that you adopt the preliminary budget and when you adopt the final budget, and you have to notice the public at least 30 days prior to the next meeting. So otherwise we could have continued to go towards the goal of adopting a budget in June, but because of that 30-day requirement, we need to issue a public notice on May 22nd, and that notice would say that we would adopt the budget on July 15th, which is a regularly scheduled meeting in July, and that the preliminary budget would just be in review on the June 17th meeting.
Julie, I want to thank you for the extraordinary job that you've had to do to keep up with new mandates due to the pandemic. Everything seems to be arcane right now. It's like a first pass for all of us with a lot of this work, and I just want to thank you. For commissioner comments, Commissioner Mateusz.
Motion to approve the calendar.
Do we
I'll
have a second?
I'll second.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Brennan?
Yeah, thank you. So the reason I pulled this item is first I wanted to understand the schedule, and I think it's really important that we keep the public apprised of the schedule because it is the budget and it needs to be a really transparent process. And these are unusual times, you know, having to do this online. So I thought it was good to pull. And then secondly, I think we need to keep tabs on what is going on with property tax, because the district is funded 50% by property tax. And I think there are probably going to be a lot of people who are not paying their property tax come April 10th, or they're going to be paying late with, and I think it's important that we stay up to date. So far I have not received any updates from the district on any changes regarding the rules related to property tax for San Mateo County. I've been kind of tracking it myself, so I have a pretty good read on it, but I imagine things may start to change. And so I'm wondering if we could get an update, you know, from the GM, or maybe have this as a bullet point included in updates on any new information that's going to potentially impact property taxes, and what our game plan is as a district for addressing a potential significant loss in property tax revenue. Thank you.
Nancy, through the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had the mute on. Commissioner Chancarelli.
So I just want to thank Julie again. I know that she's had to kind of switch gears a little bit to kind of account for what's going on in this unprecedented situation. And so Julie, we're looking forward. I know the Finance Committee is looking forward to working with you and, you know, answering the questions that not just the commissioners would have, but what the public will have. I mean, this is not the only elected agency or public agency or elected body that is dealing with this. So we're here, Tom and I are on the finance committee with you, and we're here to work with you to help us get through this as a public agency so that all of the residents in San Mateo County are, you know, assured that we're going to be operating in the way that we deserve to be operating for them. Thank you for your work.
Yes, and special thanks to you, Commissioner Ciancarelli, and Commissioners Ciancarelli and Mateusz. You have your work cut out for you during this time, being on the Finance Committee. Commissioner Lorenis, any comments or questions?
I don't have any comments.
So we have a motion and a second. Melanie, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring, there is a comment in the chat.
Okay, thank you. From Bruce McPhillips to all panelists. Thank you all for your service. The Oyster Point Yacht Club is following all federal, state, and county guidelines and will be closed. The Oyster Point Yacht Club is available to the Harbor District for any emergency use training as needed. Thank you. Thank you very much, Commodore McPhillips. Very much appreciate that.
I second that, Nancy, especially since we've had our meetings there before, and it was the meetings at the last meeting at the Oyster Point Yacht Club was quite well attended, and I want to thank the Yacht Club for making arrangements for us to be there.
Thank you. Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Ciancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenis,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
That finishes all the pulled items from the consent calendar, and the last item on, well, no, the last discussion item on our agenda is number 9, San Mateo County Harbor District COVID-19 response and posture. Jim, this is your item. And you're muted.
I had to figure out which mouse to use. Got my correct mouse. Again, good evening, commissioners. The district has been tracking federal, state, and local guidance and other orders as we execute the district's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have focused on public health through physical distancing, promoting shelter at home, and continue the essential services of the district with respect to safety, security, and sanitary issues in the safest manner possible. To date, the following actions have been taken. All non-essential, non-emergency personnel are telecommuting. The Harbor Master's office at Pillar Point and Oyster Point have been closed to the public. Public restrooms at Pillar Point and Oyster Point are closed. All portable toilets have been removed from district property. District parking lots are closed to the public to include Pillar Point Harbor, West Trail, Surfers Beach, and Oyster Point Marina. Launch ramps are closed to the general public. Johnson Pier is closed to the general public, which is also effectively closes over the dock sails. And the fishing pier at Oyster Point is closed. It's the current intent to maintain this posture until the shelter at home order is lifted. It's also important to note that the harbor master, the deputy harbor master, and harbor workers are considered emergency essential personnel and are working their normal shifts to ensure the safety, security, and proper sanitary conditions of the harbor and marina. Staff currently has access to proper personnel, protective equipment, and cleaning supplies. The commercial fishing continues, and the district is supporting this essential service. Fish buyers at the end of the pier, commercial fish buyers at the end of Johnson Pier are still operating, as is the fuel and ice service on Johnson Pier on reduced hours. Shoreside Order at the Corner continues to operate a takeout service only. The other commercial establishments at Pillar Point are not operating during the shelter at home order. The lessees at Pillar Point RV Park near Surfer Beach continue operations under a temporary home/shelter concept. Physical distancing measures are in place by the lessee. Tenant restrooms, which are key controlled, are open and available to harbor tenants. and are maintained by harbor staff. The district has received several requests for rent forgiveness or forbearance. For those tenants and lessees that have requested relief, the district has allowed them to delay paying the April lease rent payment. The COVID-19 response will also have a significant impact on the district's operating budget, as Commissioner Brennan mentioned, as we move forward. Also, that is completely independent of the rent forgiveness and forbearance issue. As a result, I've requested the Finance Committee and the committee chair to hold a Finance Committee meeting to discuss these issues. The chair of the committee has agreed to a meeting at 3:30 p.m. on April 9th, 2020 to provide a detailed report on the overall impact of COVID-19 response to the district finances and seek further guidance on rent forgiveness and forbearance to be further reported out to the full board on the April 15th regular scheduled board meeting. The final issue I want to bring to the board's attention is to seek their advice and guidance and concerns of off-the-boat sales. Currently, a member of the public cannot go onto the docks to purchase fish off the boat at Pillar Point. However, the district has received requests from fishermen to continue fish sales from their vessels. They have recommended a potential plan that may reduce physical contact between members of the public and those who work on the docks at Pillar Point, to include posting their phone numbers at the head of the pier. When they get a call from a potential buyer, they would go up and escort that fish buyer to their vessel, only one person, and conduct a commercial transaction. Once the transaction was done, then they would escort that one person back off Johnson Pier. Under the March 31st, 2020 order issued by San Mateo County Health Officer, those who sell fish to the public are considered an essential business and can continue to operate. In fact, they are encouraged to continue operation. However, in operating an approved essential business, the business owner must also ensure the physical distancing requirements are met. At Pillar Point, due to the restrictive nature of the docks and ramps, physical distancing, keeping people at least 6 feet apart, cannot be maintained. Again, I seek guidance from the board on whether or not to allow off-the-dock fish sales that would not include on the dock or access by the public to buy that fish, or any other alternative the fishermen may come up with that would not involve the public gaining access to Johnson Pier or the fishing pier or the docks.
I have a
Great,
question.
thank you, Jim. We're
Questions?
gonna, we need to have a discussion on this item. Commissioner Brennan, go ahead with your question.
So, a few things. First of all, I would really appreciate it if, when we're discussing the COVID-19 response, that we refer to it as the response and maybe call it the plan versus posture. Posture is a word that I think is a little bit odd to use with this, and I don't like it. So I'm just going to convey that I do not like the word posture related to COVID.
We can change that word easily.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I do think that because of the financial implications, it's really important that the public be able to attend Finance Committee meetings. So I would strongly suggest that those meetings be held in the evening so that those of us who actually still have a job, not all of us, are able to attend, as well as everyone else who is newly unemployed. So I think having the Finance Committee meeting in the evening is really important. So I just want to mention that, because we could be looking at some significant financial concerns related to the district and our funding. And I think we all need to be in the loop and make sure the public is well informed. And then with regard to off-the-boat sales, I completely support the current closure of Johnson Pier. I heard directly from our staff about their concerns. And I think that while we certainly want to keep the pier open, for our tenants, and we want to encourage commercial fishing industry business on Johnson Pier. That's incredibly important, especially since Pillar Point Harbor is one of the few commercial fishing ports in the state of California. I have heard from fishermen that they're not comfortable with having the public on the pier because they think it puts them and their employees at risk.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan. I'm going to move on to other commissioners for comments. We are timing comments, and that was 2 minutes. So,
and I'm done,
Commissioner,
so that's fine.
Commissioner Mateusz, do you have any comments or questions?
I've heard of people that have successfully used telephone and delivered their catch off the pier. I don't want to see our fishermen get sick from somebody bringing the virus to them. I know how important it is to move the catch off the boat. I've talked to numerous businesses, restaurants, different groups, and they've engaged in cashless sales, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, number of things. So while I totally support off the dock sales and I want everybody to make money, we can't have face-to-face transactions at the boat. You're just asking for trouble.
Thank you. Commissioner Ciancarelli?
Yes, I agree with my fellow commissioners. And I know that this is a very difficult decision because it's not just the livelihood of the fishermen and the fishing business, but also it's a recreational tourism situation as well. And it just breaks my heart that we're in this situation, but we are. And I think right now, for the health and welfare of all of the public, which includes our tenants, who the liveaboards, and our staff in particular, I think this is the right decision, Jim. I think Tom is right about doing transactions, business transactions, the way he just mentioned that. I mean, there are different forms of payment that can be used, and I mean, I'm not as well versed in that area in terms of the business aspect of it as Tom, obviously, but I do think that for the health and safety of all of the members of the public, which include our staff, I think this is a very important thing. And I've also heard from some of the fishing industry folks, and also the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association, that as much as they don't want this to happen, they understand that it needs to happen, and they support it because they want to flatten the curve with us. And so we're all in this together, and I think that they want to be part of it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes, I'd like to just point out that with respect to the Finance Committee meeting, I completely agree with Sabrina on that. I've heard from some of our tenants that they would like to have an opportunity to weigh in on this. And a lot of them can't do it if the meeting's held at 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you. And we have a public comment. I don't have a name here. I just have a phone number, 408-896-39711.
Yes, that's me. That's me. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sorry, who is this speaking?
My name is Todd Court. So I have a question for you. Let's talk a little bit of logic here. Why are the farmers markets open and we can't open on the pier?
I'd like to comment on that. I know, we don't always comment on public speaking, but LA has already closed the farmers markets, and I'm expecting
Half Moon Bay is open.
I'm expecting
Half Moon Bay
that's
farmers
probably
market is
going to happen
open.
here as well. Thank you.
Half Moon Bay farmers market is open.
For how long? I think
I'm
that's
just going to open up this weekend. And then furthermore, I have another question.
I'll send her the email.
They're all open. First of all, you are putting this decision puts the public health at greater risk because you are forcing them to go into a Safeway or an enclosed store. So your decision is putting public health at risk. That's why the public, many of them, have commented to me and many other fishermen that this policy is quote unquote insane. It's the same reason why the NBC TV person who had just put a thing out on the news the other night asked me to provide some information to him because they believe they're hearing it from the public too, that it's crazy. Your decision is forcing the public to go into a confined, enclosed space to buy their protein. It's wrong. It is wrong. And Half Moon Bay Farmers Market is open this weekend. And many other farmers markets are open across the state. And your president, Donald Trump, has said that food is an essential service. Your governor, Gavin Newsom, has said it's an essential service. And then somebody made a comment, which directors have been speaking with the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association and have tendered some input from them because they don't want to see off the boat sales. Because I'm going to tell you right now, commissioners, when you start to deal with that, you're starting to wade into the water of something very, very dangerous besides this COVID-19. You're starting to enter into antitrust issues there. Because a lot of those people, the directors, they actually own the seafood shops on the end, 2 of them. And they're board members, and they are counter to everybody off the dock sale. That's antitrust. That's a whole nother realm that you do not want to go down.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any further commissioner comments on this item?
I have a comment.
Who hasn't spoken yet? Commissioner Lorenz?
Yes.
I think we're on a second round of comments here. So Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes, I have a comment. Just like the other commissioners have stated, I'm in complete agreement that number one is protection of the public, and our GM's doing a good job with that. His arguments for closing fish sales at this time off the docks makes complete sense, and it doesn't matter to me if other people are doing this, that, or the other thing. We need to do what makes absolute sense. And if it's possible to sell fish in a way that keeps people safe, then I'm all for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenz. Commissioner Mateusz, any other comments?
Somebody just recently sold all their crab off the boat using their cell phone and delivered the crab to the people that wanted it. Somebody came in recently with a boatload of halibut, and they were able to sell it off the boat. Granted, that was before we had the closure to the public. We've all got to work a little bit different, and I feel Mr. Korth's frustration about not being able to sell right there, but a lot of people look at all of our restaurants. Many of our stores are doing home delivery. How can we make this better?
Thank you, Commissioner Mateusz. I too just want to say that I very much support our staff at this time and the extraordinary lengths that they've had to go to every day to keep the district functioning and moving forward during this pandemic. My understanding is that they're working very closely with the fishermen, both commercial and recreational, and asking for input and working very closely with the public. So I want to thank you for that. Has every commissioner had the opportunity for a second comment? Because we do have one more public comment.
I'd like to hear the public comment. I have one quick comment, but I'd like to wait till after the public comments.
So I think that we have Barry Day. Barry?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ah, good. Okay, firstly, Jim, I want to thank you there. I haven't met you before, sir, but I realize you're your position there. Two, I've been working, obviously, we got some problems there, which we have solutions for. I've heard Todd there, and yeah, I understand his emotion there. But in this time, our biggest problem there, one, first up, the public were continuing down the dock, and the signage that was up there was pretty hard to read, so people were skimming past it. And I've offered myself, I'll put some signs up, they will read, believe me. Do not enter. The dock itself, walking along there, you've got 6 foot spacing. Once they walk down the ramp, there isn't 6 foot spacing. And that was the point where we need control on the point there. And I've been walking around the Aces and the supermarkets, and I do agree. Air conditioning and this virus is not a good environment. And I have had people coming down to the boat that just want to be away. This was before we closed it, away from that environment. And on the boat, I have a bucket of bleach. After a transaction, they can dip their hands in that. It's that's something I was doing before we were closed down. There's a lot of things we can do there where we can transact. And I'll just mention something else. I'm hearing everything's closing down. That is in fact. I emailed Chris today what's happening in Santa Barbara. They're starting off the boat sales. San Francisco is still doing off the boat sales with the Pioneer, etc. So we may actually lose ground here. I'm thinking we need a more proactive approach. There's a lot of ideas out there. I am starting to babble a bit, sorry. One, the biggest thing we are facing at the moment as fishermen is we have no markets, okay? For the salmon season coming up, most of our product goes to restaurants, and the restaurants are closed. So we need to be more communal based. And yes, I have delivered to houses, etc. there. There's been some different ideas come up about a farmer's market in the car park, which is a good idea, where we can work from there. There's a lot of ideas, and I'd like to work with Jim and the harbour master.
Thank you for your comments. Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, that was quick. Okay. I was only just starting. All right.
It does go fast. Thank you for your comments.
That's cool. No.
All right. Commissioner Brennan, you had a final comment?
Yeah, thanks, Barry, for your comments. And I've been thinking a lot about this. It's a really tough situation. I know a friend of mine contacted me last week about a crab fisherman who had just brought in 80 crab and was surprised to learn that we had just closed the pier, and that just wasn't part of his game plan. So my friend said, well, what do you suggest? And I just texted home delivery. I don't know, and so we just texted all of our friends and posted things on Facebook, and he sold all of his crab like in 24 hours. And the Mercury News did a story on it. NBC Bay Area did a story on it. And he's been able to sell more crab since. So I think there are some new business models that we do have to explore. And I think that the district does, or I should say the district could help potentially facilitate that process. I'm not entirely sure what that would look like, but I think that there are some local home delivery services. We've got a new one called Coastmates Delivery, and I got delivery of vegetables to my home yesterday. And I know that they're also delivering fish for Morningstar Fisheries, and I don't know who else. So I know that there are some new businesses that are popping up to provide delivery services for growers or fishermen who can't do the delivery themselves. With fish, it's tough because you've got to have the right kind of truck. It could be expensive. So what I would encourage our staff to do is look at, are there any grants out there? Is there some way we can try to help facilitate the communication so that there could potentially be like a shared delivery truck or a way for our fishermen to get their fish to individual homes? I was contacted
Thank you, Commissioner
yesterday
Brennan. 2
by
minutes
people in
are up.
I think this is
So I
Nancy.
think,
I'm
yeah,
happy to
staff
share
is working
something
on
that is
this.
very important to our GM. So if you
So,
just don't,
I'd
there
like
is a market in the East
Hey,
Bay that would like our fish. If
I'm
We
sorry,
have
you're out of
another
order,
item.
Commissioner
We're not,
Brennan.
we're at another
You're out
item.
of order.
thank you.
So,
I'm interested in helping our
so
fishermen.
Melanie, I think we're ready to take a roll call on this item.
There's no vote on this item.
I think that they were looking for direction. Okay, that's just from the comments. All right, good. Then we're going to move on to February, March activity reports. And those are from John and Jim. Jim, you're muted. John, you're muted too.
I was loading them up, so
Thank you.
I had to flip another screen. I apologize. So this activity reports covers from the February date to April. I did attend the Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce. That was a great event. It was the first one. It was called the State of the Coast, put on by the Chamber of Commerce. It was extremely well attended, and it was the last official or last public gathering before social distancing was ordered in. I signed the course in accordance with the board direction. I signed the coastal development permit for the RV restoration project, and so did Keaton Erhan signed his portion also. So it is now fully signed, and we're executing that in accordance with what's in that documented. I did attend the Maritime Affairs Conference, California Marine Affairs Conference in Washington, D.C. It was a very good event. I'll still give you a written report, but one thing was quite impressive for me was the first half a day or more than half the day was with NIMS Fisheries and National Marine Sanctuary, and they'll be coming out with some new management policies and procedures for the sanctuaries for public review and comments. But also our Surfers Beach replenishment project was a major topic of discussion throughout the entire state. So they're looking at it at the national level as a project and an example of how to reuse that sand and dredge material. And they're also looking throughout the state for the same reason. So very excited that we're going to be, we're the leading edge on that. Attended the first finance standing committee, as it was already pretty brief. I went down and was invited to do a meet and greet at the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club to meet the Commodore and members of the yacht club, which was very beneficial for me to meet a lot more local people. Met with South San Francisco to discuss sea level rise and potential solutions to flooding at the dock entrances for docks 1 through 6 as they relate to the new development at Oyster Point and the new buildings and the new trail going in. Had an office call with San Mateo County Sheriff, which was great, and then worked mostly on the COVID response and policy since the shelter in place has taken place.
Jim, thank you so much. Wow. You've really been earning your paycheck. Commissioner Chankrali.
Yes, I forgot to mention in my commissioner comment that I was also at the I think it was the State of the Coast that was put on, I think the first time, by the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce. And I attended the event with Jim, mainly just to, brag about him and brag about all the great stuff that our staff's been doing. Jim did a presentation on behalf of the Harbor District that was wonderful, and I think it was a great outreach opportunity to the other, the other agencies. Like I think, Adam, the mayor of Half Moon Bay was there, so they were, and the city manager was there, so they were represented. Some people from Pescadero were there. I mean, so it was a really great event. Jim represented the Harbor District so well. and people were just like, wow, we didn't even know that was going on. And it was just such a positive event. And we got a lot of positive feedback. And they know that our staff and our new general managers working very, very hard. And then all of a sudden this pandemic happened. And so, you know, I think that at least we left on a high note, Jim, right? So we're very happy about that, a lot of momentum. And I just want to say one thing before we adjourn. So Nancy, I have to commend you as the new president for, this is what, your second meeting, I think, or, you know, second or third meeting, and you've done a really great job in shepherding us through this process today with a new system, an online system. I hope that it worked well with the public. And, you know, Melanie, thank you for keeping up the notes and, you know, doing all the timing and all of that. So thanks, Nancy, for your leadership. I know this wasn't easy, especially for, you know, as few meetings as we've had. So thanks for your leadership and all your work.
Thanks so much, Virginia. That's really kind of you. We're all flying by the seat of our pants here. I want to thank you and Jim for attending that Coastside meeting. Little did you know it was going to be the last time you'd be in a public gathering for 2 months.
That's correct. Hey, Nancy, I think we have another one public comment.
Okay, let me check
from
on this.
Phillips. I'm just looking at the comment section.
Okay, let me see here. It's not showing up for me. Can someone, oh, from Bruce McPhillips?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, we have a public comment here from Commodore McPhillips. Piggybacking on Commissioner Brennan's comments, fishermen should contact their local Chamber of Commerce and find out which restaurants are open during this crisis. Reach out to sell to them. Buy local, support local. Thanks very much. That's a great idea. Okay, let's see here. I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Tom, you're muted. Ed, you're muted.
I had to just find my unmute button. I keep going wrong spot. Second.
Great. Melanie, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
Commissioner Chan Corrali?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan?
She doesn't appear to be in the meeting any longer, so we have enough votes to adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jim.
Thank
Good night.
you all.
Keep up the great work.
Good work.
Thank you, Tricia.
I see you, John. Take care. Oh, they're leaving. They're leaving in droves. Good night.